Hi, in this video I will introduce NCAlt, which stands for NodeCanvas Alternatives. NCAlt is an extension to NodeCanvas, a node-based system to create behavior trees for game AI. NCAlt supports multiple behavior tree alternatives for a game character and allows live differencing of multiple behaviors in both the game scene and the tree visualization. I'm going to go over a couple of examples of how NCAlt can be used, the first of which is Pac-Man. Here is the interface of NCAlt. This is a main widget to select the alternatives. I already created two behavior tree alternatives. They are Blinky and Clyde. Blinky almost always follows the tile that Pac-Man currently occupies. Clyde's movements are based on how far away he currently is from Pac-Man. However, as soon as Clyde comes within 6 tiles from Pac-Man, he flees to its scatter position. This GUI text is used to rename the alternative. This boolean toggle button is used to label the game object in the game scene. This GUI button is used to create a new alternative. This will duplicate the currently active behavior tree alternative into a new alternative which the user can interact with independently. The user is then able to add new nodes, delete nodes, rewire the connection, or overwrite the entire behavior tree alternative. However, this does not affect other behavior tree alternatives because they are completely independent of one another. NCAlt difference visualization marks the differences between multiple behavior tree alternatives against a chosen alternative in two ways. They are difference visualization in the game scene view and different visualization of behavior trees. I will be using the Pac-Man game to visualize the differences in the game scene. To get into this mode, the user must click on a GUI button named Diff Game Scene. To show the differences between multiple behavior tree alternatives in the game scene view, a clone game object is created with the compared behavior tree alternative and colored uniquely using the Diff Game Scene toggle button color. Here, Blinky is a red ghost which is chasing Pac-Man, and Clyde is a yellow ghost which is running away from Pac-Man, because he is currently in the scatter mode. So using NCAlt, users can see multiple AI's behavior concurrently in the game scene along with the behavior trees open in separate canvases. Now I will be using the RPG game to visualize the differences in the behavior tree. I already created two behavior tree alternatives for the RPG game. Now first let's have a look at these behavior tree alternatives in the game scene. Here the skeleton is the enemy character and the human is the player character. In alternative 1, the enemy will follow the player when he is 10 tiles from the player, and he goes to position 1 when he loses the sight of the player. In alternative 2, the enemy will follow the player when he is 10 tiles from the player and he is within 45 degrees in the field view of the player. Besides, the enemy goes to his initial position when he loses the sight of the player. To get into the different visualization in the behavior tree mode, the user must click on a GUI button named diff-bt. Now when the user clicks on the added node, 4 nodes have been newly added in alternative 2. The seek position 1 node has been deleted in alternative 2. That's why it is shown as a ghost node in alternative 2. The if all true node is modified in alternative 2. That's why there is a not equal sign appearing on top of this node. The priority of if all true node has been changed as well in alternative 2. That's why number 1 is appearing on top of this node. Now I'll be using the Pac-Man game to demonstrate the workflow of selective merging. First, let's have a look at Blinky's and Clyde's behaviors in the game scene. As you can see, Blinky stays in the scatter mode for 10 seconds and changes his mood to chase. However, Clyde changes his mood from scatter to chase after arriving in the scatter position. Now suppose the user wants to make Blinky's scatter mode similar to Clyde's scatter mode. However, the user does not want to get rid of Blinky's current behavior tree. So the user creates another alternative for Blinky's behavior tree and renames it as Blinky2. After that, the user opens the Blinky2 behavior tree in a new canvas Now to merge from Clyde's scatter mode and Blinky to scatter mode, the user selects 3 nodes from Clyde's behavior tree, which is the source alternative, and opens Selective Merge menu to select the Blinky's 2's behavior tree alternative, which is the source alternative. Now the selective merge is completed. Let's have a look at Blinky 2 in the game scene after the selective merge is completed. Now as you can see, Blinky 2 changes his mode from scatter to chase after arriving in the scatter position.